All right, well, Cheryl Tan is here with a topic that nobody wants to talk about.
Marianne, I really hate to be a downer here, but it is one that must be discussed. Having the conversation about healthcare decisions in the event of an emergency can save your family pain and heartache. I really have to thank Sandra Miller, who opened up to us about the death of her husband, Dan, 2 years ago. She tells me his suffering actually began years before that, before he had an advanced care plan in place. And that's why she went into great detail when we asked her, what's your problem?
You've got to realize that we're not immortal, that all of us are going to die one day. We don't want to talk about it.
Sandra Miller says she knows from personal experience she waited too long to have this important conversation with her husband, Dan.
When he was admitted the first time to the hospital, we didn't talk about it even though they gave us the papers. The second time I made the mistake, and this is something people should realize, I think, is that you don't talk to somebody about that when they're sick or when they're in the hospital, because immediately he thought I'd given up on him.
Adding to the stress, two sons who understandably wanted to hold on to their father.
And I got the two boys together and I said, look, we've got to make a decision. And, you know, Dad keeps coming in, he's not getting better. Every time he comes to the hospital, they don't know that he's going to go home. He's on dialysis now. Both the boys said, absolutely not. Do not sign anything, Mom. And they weren't there with him every day.
It really brings a lot of angst to the family and it tears them apart.
David Cochran, the Director of Advanced Care Planning, Ethics and Palliative Care at Sentara, sees this happen all too often. He encourages people to discuss what kind of medical care they want in the event they cannot speak for themselves. A free program open to anyone is designed to shape the discussion.
And we have trained facilitators that will sit down with the family and help make that conversation as easy as possible. We have a program through the U.S. Living Will Registry, free of charge. You bring us your advance directive. It doesn't have to be on our form. You can have it on your own form. You can handwrite it. You can have an attorney do it. But just put the registration agreement with your document and give it to us, and we'll put it on the National Registry. It allows that document to be given to any healthcare provider anywhere in the United States.
That document, when she got it, gave Sandra Miller a measure of peace.
Finally, I guess a year before he died, he was home, and we were talking, and he finally brought it up himself. He said, you know, I think we need to talk about this. And I said, all right, tell me, you know, what you don't like. What do you want? What are your choices? And so he said, I think we need to go ahead and do this. And so he signed it, and I signed it. And I explained to both of the boys what we had done, and I said it was his decision. But it took, I think, about 4 years for me to get to that point, because, you know, I hated to bring it up after that first time.
When the time came, Miller says it was still so tough, yet it made sense.
When you hear the nurse say, don't bring the crash cart, he's a DNR, do not resuscitate, you're standing across the hall saying, I've changed my mind, you know, I want him, but I knew it was the right decision. And he was living a miserable life. He was so sick, and it did make it so much easier. I mean, I didn't feel guilty that at the end, because I had, you know, performed his wishes.
So really a heavy, heavy subject to address right now, but Sandra Miller was so great to talk with us about her story. And after the death of her husband, she told me that she also then signed an advanced care directive so her families don't have to wrestle with the same issues when the time
Yeah,
comes.
like she said, it's going to happen, you know, but it's just one of those things that she shares could help somebody else do the next thing. Good story.
So
yeah.
we'll put all that information online at thehamptonroadshow.com, or on the U.S. Living Will Registry, plus Sentara's program, where you can have someone sit and talk with you about what you'd like to do afterward.
Yeah, excellent. All right. Thanks, Cheryl.